Hi everyone, today we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about quite a large kit from ICM. It comes in 1/35 scale and it actually combines two models because we get the S-64E Skycrane and we also get the universal pod. As you can see, it nicely fits into the cargo bay of this helicopter, and once you combine those two things together it will be quite a build. So in 1/35 scale it definitely takes some space. Also here it's worth noting that 1/72 scale kit is on its way, so I think it will be quite soon on the market. It might be actually interesting for modelers who don't have space for such a giant in their collection. But as you can see here, we have the kit number 53059. This is the final shape of this release, so nothing will change and you should be able to get it from Modelimex. And the box size is huge, so in case you plan to hide it somehow from others, it will not be possible. Here is comparison with my hand, and also here on the side you can see some information about the kit. By the way, the weight of the box is also quite noticeable, but we get here only 619 parts, and the length of the model will be quite noticeable. It's 775 millimeters, so almost a meter. And then if I flip over this box, somehow it barely fits under the camera, so do not be surprised by shake of the camera. But here you can see the marking option. It's pretty much the same as what we saw on the box art. What we need to do now is to cut through the seals. As you can see, some of them are a bit unsealed already, so I just need to cut through the remaining ones and then we will be good to go. I can also remind you that I reviewed the previous versions as well, so in case you are interested you can find them on the same YouTube channel which you are watching right now, and they are also quite interesting because they offer you a chance to build a military option, and they also offer you a chance to build this one, the civil version without the container. For some modelers this will be more interesting because you can combine it with some different cargo of your choice, of course in 1/35 scale, but still I think you have quite a large option list for such a build. And as for the whole design of the box, it's similar. So now I'm opening the white cardboard box, and I have to say there are a lot of plastic bags. So for example, here we start with the helicopter parts. The good news is that these are resealable plastic bags, so they should be easy and quick to open, and I will do it right now. We will start with the first bag, and then gradually we will continue with other sprues, of course. So here we start with the top panel for the fuselage of this helicopter, and I will open the lenses a bit. Let's zoom in. Maybe also toss the sticker just to remind you what you are watching. Okay, so here we have the large panels for the helicopter. These are notable because of their external features. We have a lot of raised rivets. You can notice them here, for example. Also here you can note the instrument panel, and also we have some parts for the engine gondolas or nacelles. As you can see here, the frontal sections of this engine nacelles, and they are interesting because they should be quite detailed. So they are visible on the finished model, they are visible on the real helicopter, so that's why it was not possible to skip on those features, and they are obviously included here. They are not sold as the separate kits or whatsoever, you just get them as the standard package and you will have to work with them. So this is a good idea to plan on how to properly paint them, because otherwise you might end up with a quite interesting result and it will be really hard to reach some of the areas. Now I'm opening the clear plastic sprue. Here the most interesting thing is that these parts are actually wrapped into the foam, so it will help you avoid unnecessary scratches, and I think this is quite important, especially considering the design of these parts, so that's why it's good. And I think these parts are actually specific for today's civil version, because the military one did not have such a windows from what I remember. Now I'm opening the second plastic bag, and probably you can hear this. So here we also get the clear plastic sprue. Maybe I'll show it quickly. This one is a bit simpler because here we get the square transparencies or rectangular transparencies. As you can see, they're also looking great, but the only question if the masks are included here. So for this we will have to check the assembly manual. And I think these transparencies are actually used for the universal pod, because here we have these two large panels which are actually making the roof and the floor panel of this pod. And as you can see, they're nicely detailed. They gain a lot of raised rivets, and if we flip them over, we have also the interior. So this is not something of what is, I would say, typical for 135 scale kits. Some others or some manufacturers actually skip on those features because they are not visible. But here I think the main feature is that you can actually show what is inside. And as you can see here, we have the full structure replicated. And as for the other interior features, we actually get 2-3 plastic sprues of this type. So I will show you on one. So again, 3 sprues of this type. And here we have the landing gear and also various seats and their framings for installing inside the helicopter. This will take some time for sure, so be ready for this task. It's definitely not a quick install, and it's also something what you will have to paint before closing the panels, the exterior panels, because later it will be really difficult to reach these parts, and they will be visible through the separate transparencies, so this is not something you can skip on. And here we continue with more parts. So these points are actually used for installing the seats. Also we have this suspension for the landing gear. And if we flip over these parts here from the opposite side, you do not see that many features, but this is okay. We have the separate doors, so you can open them as well. But again, it depends which assembly option you would like to copy with your build, because it would be strange to have the open doors in flight. So next, another plastic bag with the helicopter parts. And I will show it in a sec. The sprues are quite huge because, well, the model itself is quite large, so that's why they had to pack everything into several bags so that nothing will be squashed because of the damage of the pressure. So here you continue with the tail boom, and I think this is also something what makes the main section of the fuselage as well. We also have the main reductor as well here. And next we have the tail surfaces, or tail section actually. So here you can see a lot of raised rivets again. We have also some landing gear parts here and there, and again some of the raised rivets are placed even on these panels. This is really impressive for a 135 scale, to be honest, and I saw some modelers making really cool weathering ideas with these features, but this is already your choice. Especially if you have some good reference materials, you will be good to go to copy this. So here we continue with more of the fuselage panels. Also we have the first front cap parts, but I guess there will be more in the separate sprue bag, because they are packed separately from what I can see. Here we have another one for the tail boom, and also here we have also the tail wings. From what I remember, they are looking also huge. And again, raised rivets are everywhere. As far as I remember, they had the contest to guess the amount of the rivets, and it was really crazy amount. So some people were guessing more than 10,000, and I think it was more than several thousand indeed. So here we continue also with the rotor blades. There are 3 sprues of this type, so we get 6 blades to install. These are really huge. Here is again comparison with my hand. And as you can see, there is almost no sagging. So I'm not sure if it is present on the real thing. If you know, feel free to write in the comment section. I will be happy to learn this. But we have one last gray plastic sprue bag, and I'm opening it right now, so just give me a second. Here we continue with the front cap parts. So these are side panels. Also here we have the full chin panel. Why I'm saying full? Because as you can see, it is molded as a single piece part. It repeats the panel lines, so you won't have any unnecessary gaps or seams in the middle. This is really cool, and I think this is a handy feature in such a big model. Here inside we will find only the guiding elements. As you remember, the cockpit should be assembled separately, so do not be surprised with this. Then the next plastic sprue is provided in 4 pieces. So again, 4 of this type. And here we have the landing gear, we have also the engine parts, and some other minor elements which will be installed here and there. I have to say that both engines are nicely detailed here in the standard package, so it would be quite a shame not to spend some time weathering and painting them in a proper way. That's why I was mentioning several times already that try to find the good reference material, and you will be actually glad to have it because it will give you some build ideas or even the paint work ideas. Here we continue with the parts for the main rotor, also various wirings, pipings, and some other things which should be installed on the helicopter. And one more sprue. This one I think is the most or the trickiest one in the kit. Why? Because here we get a lot of thin parts, so those will require due care, and in some cases it might be also worth considering replacing them with the metal wire. I know it might be a bit more tedious, but the final result will be worth it, and especially in 135 scale such upgrade should be noticeable as well. And last but not the least is the clear plastic sprue with the front cap transparencies. Again, really good molding quality, but I guess this is already traditional for ICM, so here is no surprise. And assembly manual hides the decal sheet, so just give me a second to take them out. Actually, there are several decal sheets. So the first one is the small one. And maybe I will close the lenses so that you can see what we are talking about here. Here it is. And as you can see, the printing quality looks fine. All the small writings are recognizable and readable, so it's just a matter of applying them on your helicopter. But then there is one more decal sheet. This one is a bit bigger. And here we have the parts for the front cab. Here you can notice them, and also a lot of writings, stencils. All of this stuff is provided here. Keep in mind that the seat belts are not part of this kit, so this might be an easy upgrade, which will be visible in the finished model as well. So definitely think about it. And last but not the least is the assembly manual. So here we have the large brochure. It is color printed. We have short history note here. And parts map, what I like is that it shows the parts which are unused, so that you will not be confused by using the wrong parts, wrong versions. And as you can see, there are a lot of such, let's say, opportunities. So that's why be careful while building everything together. And it's kind of telling when the parts map is actually taking 10 pages. And here on the page number 10, we actually start to build the helicopter. As you can see, everything begins with the front cap, and straight away here you have to plan on how to paint these cockpit parts, because obviously later they will be enclosed in the front cap. Here we continue. I'm not sure if I already jumped over the several pages. As you can see, it's a thick brochure, so it's a bit tricky to turn over the pages, but no, it is actually something what we continue. So these separate panels should be combined together. Do not forget to drill these holes which are depicted here. Then we continue with the, let's say, main fuselage section. And as you can see, it is assembled together with the tail boom and also this large insert, which is providing a bit of rigidity for the landing gear. So it will be needed because the final weight of the model should be quite hefty, and the size, as you remember, is also quite big. Next we continue also with the central console, and then we assemble the canopy parts in place. So you also use this bulge side windows, which are typical for the civil version, as we discussed. Then you start building the landing gear for each side, obviously, and as you can see, it is kind of it slides over these supports which we have on the main frame. Then we continue with the tail rotor, and here we have a lot of small parts to be installed as well, various hydraulic lines and other stuff. And then we start working on the main rotor, and also the engines, I guess, will be on the next pages. Yeah, so here you can see how it will be assembled. It's the several parts combined together, and it continues on the next page. So that's why I was saying that it's quite a large build up, and as you can see, it's placed on the top of helicopter. Quite an open assembly, so that's why it will be visible how you will paint it or weather it. And this is also why I'm saying it's a good opportunity to use it. Next we continue also with the tail wing, And here we start working on this universal pod. So you can see exactly what I was telling you about. It's the seats inside. And then we continue with closing all of this stuff inside. So we have the doors separately, but manufacturer shows that you assemble them in a shut position, but I guess nobody stops you from opening them, and especially if you have some figurines for this build. Next we continue also with the landing gear for this pod, and then we attach it under the helicopter. So this is quite a hefty attachment, so I wonder how it will hold in place. And the final steps are actually again the helicopter, its assembly of the main rotor. We have the paint scheme for black elements, and we also have the masking templates, but only for the side windows, which is kind of strange. And here we continue with one and only marking option, which is also depicted on the box art. But as you can see, you can also choose between the colors of some of the elements, so it might be also a good opportunity to have some variety. And as for the whole kit, it should be already available. Again, this is not something what I would recommend to beginners, but if you're quite confident in your skills, then definitely go for it. And of course I will be happy to hear your opinion, so write it here in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.